Hello and welcome back to FlowState. On this edition, we're talking about expectations and, more importantly, not having them. Not having them for yourself. Hola, ¿qué tal? Not having them for other people, especially other people. And the turmoil that ensues when you get and have expectations for fucking anything. Let's talk about it. So I will share with you something that happened yesterday, and I found myself, let's say, locked into a old pattern that did not serve me, did not serve my empowered state. In fact, it detracted from it, and it was like a little spiral of shit and death that collapsed my afternoon, which is tragic because I will never get that time back. I would much rather be activated with you guys, vibing, and hola, ¿qué tal? Or literally doing anything else than locked into my head and not getting anything out of it other than my own fucking torture session. And I do like pushing hard at the gym. I am somewhat of a masochist there, but nowhere else. So let's fucking talk about it. Expectations. The inner turmoil that can be avoided by having expectations is so profound, so meaningful, that it should really be a learnt skill that is taught in school, along with not making assumptions. Slightly different. And having expectations for anything is a catalyst to emotion, positive, neutral, or negative. And I get the positive emotion associated with expectations, but frankly, when does that ever happen? And it hits harder when you don't have expectations, and then the thing that you're engaged with or the person that you're engaged with delivers beyond what the phrase would be, my expectations. And therefore, it's all upside. The adverse effect of this is if things don't meet your expectations, then it's almost worse. You're setting yourself up for failure. And if you get into the habit of removing the idea of expectations, you remove the possibility of associating any emotion to the outcome, which is massive. And again, positive, neutral, negative. So let's take it back to yesterday. The house was a fucking mess. My wife just got back from a trip. Plus, there was like this party that we went to, which was a lot of fun. I came back early. She stayed up. And so she was tired and not on her A game. Understandable. And so there's been a shift in our lifestyle. She was working for a long time, and I was supporting her domestically. And as the roles shifted, she agreed to support me and our family domestically because someone has to do it. You can't do everything. I am, let's say, more apt at doing certain things, like I just get shit done. Not to say that she doesn't, but in her own way. And that's beautiful. So yesterday I was at the desk in the apartment, and there was the laundry with a bunch of shit on it, and there was like stuff all over the house. There were dishes in the sink, and I just don't have time to do everything that I used to do, because my time needs to be prioritized, as it should, as everyone's time should be prioritized. And I got upset, not at anything she did or that she didn't do. Well, in reality, it was what she didn't do, but more so the expectation I had of her. And here, Chica, hold on. All right, buddy, you're free. And because of that expectation, because I had this idea of what was supposed to happen, and it wasn't happening, I started essentially running a negative movie about her and the situation. And then there was resentment that was added to it. And then it was like a slow fucking spiral of emotional baggage that had been dealt with. And then all of a sudden I found myself getting worked up about something that, in the grand scheme of things, is so inconsequential, but it ties into a deeper purpose. It's not just about the inaction. I'm someone who really thrives and appreciates clean spaces. I think there's an association with how your mind operates in a clean space versus a messy one and a chaotic one. I know that some people say they can work in chaotic spaces, and I can too. It's just not my preference. I find the quality of the output to be not as focused in general. I mean, splitting hairs, but it's the whole ethos and the vibe in the moment. You want to be celebrating the work you do, no matter what it is. And if you can set yourself up for success within your environment, that's going to propel you forward in the work that you do, no matter what it is. So I didn't express myself clearly in that moment, which was a deficiency on my part, which is a learned skill to practice as much as possible, not focusing on the potential negative outcome, but as a means to express what is alive in me, or you, or in all of us. And whatever's alive in us is really the most powerful, potent energy that needs to be dealt with in that moment. Frustration, happy, sad, aroused, all of the emotions, right? Because if what is alive in us doesn't get put out into the universe, there's an opportunity for that to develop toxicity and then permeate into other elements of our life. And getting clear on that as quickly as possible is really the tool of du jour. Just like anything, right? How quickly do you learn, and how little do you... Oh, fuck. Tika just found a chicken. And how quickly can you course correct? And then do so in a way that is polite, respectful, but also not beating around the bush, as it were. Fucking being direct as well, without using language that colors emotion and makes things muddy and confusing. So that was my deficiency. I didn't do that. And because I didn't do that, I allowed this movie to play out in my mind, which further corrupted my state and my energy. Tiga, leave that chicken alone. Come on. Tiga, come on. It's crazy, dude. Tiga, Tiga, Tiga. Oh, shit. Maybe I'll just keep walking. You saw it here first. Oh, fuck. Not hanging around for whatever is going to happen next. He'll catch up. So we spoke. Excuse me. We spoke about it afterwards, and I believe that there's closure on the thing that happened. And then I started reflecting on what the fuck just happened. Because it's abnormal for me to divert in that way. I've put in a lot of work so that I am grounded and my emotions are constantly being analyzed by myself to understand what is alive in me and what is happening, and doing everything I can to bring that out into existence, out of my head. So the conclusion I came to was that it wasn't that she did anything wrong per se. I was the one who had expectations of behavior, which is a form of control. And by having such expectations, when they weren't met, it fucked my shit up in a way that compromised what I was doing and changed the state of my energy from happy, jovial, bouncy fucking Eric to, you know, it's kind of like that metallic, toxic thing that you can, oh shit, hold on, that you can sometimes get maybe when you have like a funky piece of liver or something, you know? I don't know how else to describe it. So, sorry, I just lost my train of thought as I got distracted with this boat doing some crazy maneuvering over there. Expectations. Fuck expectations. Fuck them. And then I started going on this deep rabbit hole and thinking about the problem with expectations, and then coupling that with the idea of assumptions, and then further thinking about the suffering associated with having expectations about anything, and then also making assumptions about things. Again, subtle difference, but by simply removing any thought associated to an outcome and accepting whatever it is and releasing it, saves any potential negative from happening as it relates to disappointment or thinking that things were going to be one way and they're a different way. Ooh. Sorry, this part here is always a little tricky. Ooh. I'm going to take it a little easy tomorrow. Training. It's probably not going to happen. Going up is always the fun part. I can tell you, going out in nature and going on a walk while this was happening really changed my state, and that practice I'm eternally grateful for, and encourage as many people as I interact with that when you're feeling off, the best thing to do is to, 1, stop what you're doing, 2, take a few breaths, and then assess. It's like forcing a round peg in a triangle hole. It'll fucking get in there if you smash away at it, but that's not really the vibe we're after. We're looking for square peg, square hole. Not a hole, but you know what I mean. All right, I'm gonna take a quick photo. I'll be back with you guys. Okay, we're back. It's a mere blip for you. Releasing expectations. It's just been something I have thought a lot about in this last 24 hours, because it is potentially so toxic and ultimately serves no benefit to the individual thinking about an outcome. It's applied to everything in life. Individuals, experiences, and all of it. I mean, there isn't anything else other than individuals and experiences. And part of it is leading from love when you're dealing with someone who you love, but you can love someone and lead from resentment. You can lead from a lot of different emotions. And leading from love is freedom, because real love is grounded in acceptance. The absence of judgment, the absence of control, the absence of any negative association based on how they are, who they are, where they are in life, how they show up. They are their own individual. You're not a participant in their universe, and vice versa. They are experiencing a completely different movie than you are. So to pass judgment on someone is very low status. A lot of people do it, myself included, in the past. I have gotten so much better to the point where I don't really feel those kinds of thoughts in my mind anymore. And leading from love in that way gives greater depth to the possibility of a relationship, because what you're saying is, I accept you for who you are and how you show up. I have also come to the conclusion that part of not having any expectations is that you need to be okay with applying that to everything in life. So someone says they're going to meet you for coffee at this time. The assumption is that they're going to show up. The expectation is that you will be there and they will be there. And there's, the difference between the expectation and the assumption is that the assumption is not necessarily based on, assumption is based loosely on evidence in some way, whereas an expectation is not necessarily. I think I have that right, or they could be reversed. There's subtle difference. And let's say you go and you do the thing, you get there, and then they don't show up. Right? I guess the assumption is that they're going to show up, and that the expectation is that they are going to, or your expectation is that you're going to see your friend, or colleague, or anything like that. And let's say they don't show up. You're going to be disappointed, you're going to be triggered, you're going to be upset, you're going to be happy, you're going to be sad, all of the above. And for what? It's a distraction from presence in a way, because the thing that the outcome in your mind is simply a fantasy. It's not real. It's not the thing that actually took place. The thing that took place was different than the expectation, which is why you're feeling the way you are about the thing that didn't happen the way you thought it would. That sounds like fucking shit to me. That's not a powerful place to operate from. That doesn't bring joy into your life. And let's flip it. Think about this. So let's say the outcome is better than your expectations, right? But because you had this idea of what was going to happen, it was already capped to the potentiality within that frame that you've already laid out. If you're showing up, you have zero expectations, it is what it is, and it ends up being super fantastic, that's going to be way better than showing up and saying, oh wow, it's better than I thought it was. That's kind of flat. That doesn't really speak to the character of how little situations can have so much impact in our life if we just hold space for these opportunities to exist. And by already having ideas in our mind about how things are going to play out, it cripples us in a way. It prevents us from truly experiencing the movie, the work of art, the conversation, the meal, the hike down to the ocean. So let's bring it back to what happened yesterday and how I got locked on this path of talking about expectations. Her actions, so I should be clear, there's a few things to mention. We had a talk about this, and she said she would support and do the things that are needing to be done. We have 2 kids, There's all kinds of shit happening. You're running a fucking operation. And then, so things got a little out of hand with the cleanliness and just the whole situation. It's like a little chaotic. So I got upset at my own idea that based on what was previously discussed, there was an expectation that she would do the thing. And because she didn't, I got upset. She didn't get upset. She was happy. She was fucking enjoying herself, chilling out on the deck, looking at the sun. You know, I want her there. I want her exuberant life force of greatness just vibing. Obviously, who wouldn't want that for their loved one, their queen? So, it occurred to me so profoundly that the thing that I was upset about was me. I was upset at my own thinking for having such a limiting belief about a thought that then permeated into a bunch of negative shit that didn't actually propel the rest of my afternoon, but crippled it. Fucking yawning, man. Oh, I'm also a little tired. Expectations. Fuck them. I really have thought a lot about how this could be attributed in a positive light. I would love to know if you can associate the idea of an expectation to being only positive, because I don't get it. I don't see how that's possible. I don't see how there isn't the element of a negative associated with it. Just like making assumptions about things. Being in practice to never make assumptions was something that I started doing after reading the Four Agreements. And that should be part of that book as well, in my opinion. And it really changed my perspective on what is the associated emotional state along with making assumptions, in general, mostly disappointment. Of course, you can assume things and get it right, but it's the roll of the dice. And, you know, I guess you can say, well, if you're at dinner and you happen to be there before someone and you know their particular taste and you say, oh, I'll order them a drink or something, and then, you know, they show up and it's not at all what they wanted, but then they feel now obligated to have the drink because of whatever issue they're going through, instead of just saying, no, that's, thank you, but I'm not interested in this, or whatever. I mean, you can make those types of assumptions. Certain assumptions, I think, are less problematic, like, oh, I'm stopping by the deli, maybe so-and-so's hungry, I'll get an extra sandwich and a drink. And then you go back and they're not interested in the sandwich and the drink. Well, you just got yourself another sandwich and drink that you can eat later. You know, it's like those kinds of inconsequential assumptions are part of like everyday life, I think, in many ways. Or when you're dealing with people on an ongoing basis, I think there's a natural inclination to make assumptions about a lot of things. But then when things start to get tricky is that you make assumptions about how people are feeling and what they're thinking and various other identities that are associated with just purely extrinsic factors that don't clearly represent reality. These are all just fantasies that are made up in our minds. And to get as far out of this space as possible and into presence and reality, because when it's like you're thinking about all this stuff, right? And of course you're in the present moment while you're doing it, but are you really? Because you're so detached from the thing that's in front of you that how could you possibly be in the present moment? And then so your existence is now propelled into a future state or in the past, all predicated on made up shit. So after what happened yesterday and my long walk and just thinking about it, and I felt, shame, and I felt shame at my own inability to leverage the emotional intelligence to assist me in regulating my emotions, where that was clearly not working at that time. And I didn't have the capacity to bring myself out of the state for unknown reasons, right? It's like total fucking bullshit. And I'm sure you can relate to things that have happened and to you in the past or in the, at any time where you just kind of get stuck in a loop. And I was so focused on the outcome of my day that the things that were actually in front of me kind of, in a way, morphed into this other thing that clouded my judgment, impacted my emotional state, and then changed the course of that day. So really going deep into the consequence of making assumptions, making judgments, it's like all of this stuff is connected. Assumptions, expectations, judgments, they kind of all exist in the same energetic space, which to me is really just negative. It's all fucking not helpful. So then how do you leverage this insight and take action on it? Because that's the key. It's not enough to have an idea. It's never good enough just to have an idea. And the action that you take after the idea, whether you choose to not take action, that's also action. But it's like, how can I then incorporate what I'm saying into practice and then have it be part of something that serves my interests as well as the people around me and you, which is why you're here. It really requires letting go and accepting, and this is nothing new, the things that are not in your control are just not in your control. There's no way that you can change any of it. What you can control are the things that are in your control. Sounds obvious, but it's worth repeating. So, how do you do it? You start by choosing to commit yourself to an ongoing process, a learning process that is not going to be pretty at first, that it's going to take time, many, many, many reps. It's going to require patience. It's going to require operating differently than you are currently. It's going to require higher degrees of empathy and is going to require a deeper understanding of why, in so many cases, the individual that is holding these expectations is being triggered. Now, there can be needs below that, which I think is a key insight into understanding yourself better. And using language like that is important because articulating your needs cuts through and pinpoints the catalyst for essentially everything. So, in other words, you can frame it like this. My need to have a clean space in which I felt calm and focused in wasn't met. So I internalized the chaos and it disrupted my flow. You can also take it a step further and say, I felt, or I would say, my need to feel supported wasn't met because while I was working, you were doing X. And understanding the root of the emotion, which I think ties back to the idea of needs. You know, like, I'm irritated right now because I am hungry and my need to eat is impacting my emotional state. So the logical thing to do is to eat some fucking food. And so maybe, in my experience, taking time to stop the work, accept responsibility for the things that I can control, which is to take action on cleaning the environment and resetting the space that is in alignment with how I thrive the most, and then pick up where I left off. It wasn't as though it was like a fucking 4-day rager and there was just, you know, just like you're scraping shit off the walls. It's not like that. There was a bunch of dishes in the sink. The counters look a little messy because there was a bunch of dishes in the sink and shit just needed to be cleaned. The laundry and just like a little chaotic. And it was really like maybe half an hour, 45 minutes worth of time, you know? And so if that happens again, it's like it's not worth the aggravation of resentment, feeling weird about it, feeling like, you know, also, I have to say, it was my own inaction in voicing the need for support that further propelled the hate on assumption. And ultimately, I'm grateful for the experience because it brought me to where I am in this moment, which is so much more clear than I was yesterday. And until these moments happen, like, it's hard to necessarily associate what I'm saying if you haven't felt that way before. Abstract, conceptual ideas, certainly, I don't think it's that complicated to grasp. But when you're in that moment, when you've been triggered, that's when you're being tested. That's when your character is being tested, your use of the tools in your toolkit. All of these things are there to serve you. But if you don't leverage them, then it's just entertainment. And it takes practice, constant work at getting proficient at anything. It's about leading with agape love, the biggest, most pure form of just emanating love and it just projecting out into the universe from every cell in your body, connecting you with a higher frequency and allowing yourself to almost melt into whatever you're being presented with. Because if you have resistance and allow for things to fester and to get locked in, and it's like you have that fucking machine, you press the button, it, like a jukebox. You know, and everybody does this for sure. You're running a racket on all kinds of shit. Look at these fucking assholes, or, you know, I don't like that, or, you know, whatever. Like, absolute bullshit, waste of time, super low vibrational, toxic shit. It's like people who talk about people behind their back. Fucking insane. Basically, you got a bunch of crazy people walking around. And myself included yesterday. I mean, like, what the fuck was that? Honestly. But as I said, I'm grateful for that experience because it's part of growth. That discomfort, that feeling of being hammered away like a swordsmith works on steel in Japan, like bang, 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 put it in the fire, it gets hot. You're forging the shit, you're making it fucking strong. You're developing anti-fragility. You're using that as a catalyst to propel you forward. And if you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing. If you're not uncomfortable, you're not moving forward. you need to also be self-aware and introspective to be able to analyze effectively the thing that took place, understand the logic and the catalyst for the emotional state in order to make sure it doesn't happen again. And maybe it will. And it's not about it not happening or happening. It's not about that. It's about the understanding that deepens your ability to sense and feel signals as they arise. And that is so fucking powerful. I mean, really, really strong shit. Because if you like are finding yourself in this situation and there's like this air of familiarity and the last time it happened, it didn't end well, and you see a lot of the same signals, well, at least you have that muscle memory and you know that, wow, last time this happened, I didn't like that experience at all. I could have saved myself all kinds of agony and, whatever. And so at least you can take action accordingly to save yourself the pain. But in doing so, you're further grounding your energy, deepening the connection within yourself, having clarity that you can then use to drive your output, the thing you do next. Do you control your breathing? You emphasize your breath to reclaim your power? And as a byproduct of that, you reclaim your nervous system by slowing down any uptick in cortisol, which clouds your judgment. Cortisol is like gun to the head, take action in like whatever the smallest amount of time is. That's cortisol. That's really what it's designed for, fucking being chased by lions and shit. And I don't know when the last time you were chased by a lion, but I have never been chased by a lion. So, implementing awareness is really level 2. Right? Level 1 is being aware that whatever is happening. And level 2 is taking action in a way that is in alignment with who you are being or are trying to be, right? Grounding yourself in your core values as a constant reminder of how you want to show up in the world is the simplest way to define your behavior. So, the practice. The next time, let's really break it down to first principles. The idea of assumptions and expectations, right? It's like splitting hairs, but there's a difference. Next time you feel the urge to articulate that there's an expectation, reframe it. Be in conscious presence, slow your breath down, and hold space for yourself and your thoughts. Move past the fantasy and stay present, stay grounded in the present moment. And what happens, happens. It's not in your control. Oh. There's so much freedom and power and peace that comes with this, let alone all of the energy that you used by thinking about all the stuff that may or may not happen, or that, like whatever. I mean, it's like living in fantasy. It's not real. Man, it is so green. It's been raining incessantly. Incredible. Woo. Excuse me, I don't know why I'm yawning so much, but I am. I also would like to say that I'm so grateful for your time, your trust in me, being here, dropping in. The views on the long form podcast episodes are growing every day, and I am just extremely grateful and honored that I'm able to be here and talk and support and connect with people from all around the world. Checking on my battery. The last time I recorded an episode, the battery died. Wasn't able to say a proper goodbye. Oh man, feeling it. It's amazing when you train legs super hard, you need time to recover. Going down, yesterday. Just blows my mind, the thing that happened. But again, taking the experience and turning it into something that is going to be serving me in the future. Really hope that this conversation has been inspiring to you and will help you calibrate what is alive in you and the way you think about things, scenarios, contexts, your children, your spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, throuple, whatever the fuck you're into, you know, like all of it. It's like, you know, road rage, all of that shit just disappears when you start feeling anything different than your current state as it relates to the things that you are responsible for, which is yourself, not other people's behavior. You know, what someone else does shouldn't affect your state. I know, again, it's easier said than done, but I mean, that's the real shit. You're responsible for your actions, your emotions. You're responsible for you first. Should have gone swimming. Next time, maybe. All right, almost back to the top. I feel it, I'm a little weak in knees, Please drop a comment. Let me know where you're from. Let me know what you're dealing with. Bring it out into the open. If you want something a little bit more private, join our school community. The Growth Blueprint is there to be leveraged. I'm close to officially launching this and shifting to paid. And there's a few variables there. One is that you, the user, will value it more, which is important. Generally, people don't value free things for the most part, or at least in this context where, you know, great, I get a free car, yay, but that's not really what we're talking about here. And there'll be a schedule. I think I have chosen this method of increasing pricing over time, which is also important for the viability of the work I'm doing. So, yeah. I think that's it. I think I've exhausted my bandwidth for this edition of FlowState. Thank you so much for dropping in. Please connect with me however it's most convenient for you to do so. Fuck. All right. Love you all. Thanks so much for dropping in. See you next time.